She wore that red dress and the world stopped watching anything else. Vivian Ward, the girl from Hollywood Boulevard, became a queen in hearts across the globe. But what really happened after that limousine drove off into the sunset? Did the fairy tale last, or did life come knocking at the castle doors? Let's go back before the sequel to where it all began, asterisk in 1990. The world fell in love with a movie that wasn't supposed to be a romance at all. Pretty Woman began as a darker film about survival, but something magical happened. The chemistry between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere turned it into a modern Cinderella story with heels, laughter, and a whole lot of heart. Julia played Vivian, a struggling escort in Los Angeles who meets Edward, a rich businessman looking for company during a business trip. What started as a simple arrangement quickly turned into something much deeper. We remember the scenes like they were yesterday. Vivian standing nervously in the fancy hotel lobby, getting turned away by rude saleswomen, then returning later dressed head to toe in high fashion, saying the famous line, "Big mistake, huge." Or the moment she and Edward sat in the opera, tears in her eyes as she truly believed, just for a moment, she could belong in his world. But perhaps no scene stuck with people more than the ending, Edward climbing the fire escape to rescue her with flowers in hand, despite his fear of heights. It wasn't just romantic, it's symbolic. A rich man changing for love and a woman daring to believe in something more. But here's something most people forget. Pretty Woman was not a fantasy for everyone. Behind the laughs and shopping montages, there was real pain. Vivian was young, alone, and invisible to society. Edward, though powerful, was cold and broken from his past. The two of them needed each other not just for love, but to see themselves as whole again. Their fairy tale wasn't about castles. It was about being seen. The original movie didn't show us what happened next. We didn't see if Edward stayed the man who climbed fire escapes or if he fell back into his old ways. We don't know if Vivian ever got to become someone outside of his world or if she simply adapted to it. But that mystery is what makes Pretty Woman 2 in 2025 so powerful. After 35 years, we finally get answers. But before we get there, it's important to understand why people cared so much about these two characters in the first place. Pretty Woman wasn't just a romantic comedy. It was a mirror for anyone who ever felt like they didn't belong, anyone who had been judged by appearances, or anyone who was waiting for someone to truly see them. Julia Roberts became a star because she brought heart, humor, and vulnerability all at once. She wasn't perfect, but that's what made her unforgettable. And Richard Gere? He made cold, serious Edward someone you rooted for. Someone who you hoped would finally let down his walls. That's the magic this sequel has to live up to. And the 2025 film knows it. It doesn't try to replace those moments. It builds on them slowly, carefully, and with real emotion, because the question isn't just what happened next. It's what does it take to stay in love after the fairy tale ends? Asterisk, she wasn't waiting to be rescued this time. Vivian is older, wiser, and stronger, but love, as always, finds a way to test her. In Pretty Woman 2, the fairy tale gets real. No shopping sprees, no glass slippers, just two people with a complicated past facing a world that has changed. Without asking for permission, asterisk, the movie begins not with a kiss or a limo but silence. Vivian stands alone on a rooftop in Los Angeles, looking out at a city she once walked through with no direction. She's now the founder of a nonprofit that helps women escape the kind of life she once lived. She's no longer the girl from the street she's someone others look up to. But inside there's a question she never answered. What really became of Edward? Edward Lewis is no longer the charming, confident businessman he once was. He's retired, quieter, and alone. Their lives, once tightly bound, have drifted apart not with anger, but with time. After decades together, they've taken different roads. They're still connected, but it's fragile. Life didn't break them, but it tested them until cracks formed. Then something unexpected happens. Vivian receives a letter. Not an email, not a handwritten letter from a young woman claiming to be her daughter. The twist? Vivian never had children. Or at least she doesn't think she did. Enter Lily, a passionate, Headstrong young woman who believes she has ties to both Vivian and Edward. Her story is mysterious and emotional, hinting at a past Vivian may have blocked out or misunderstood. She's not looking for money, she's looking for answers. And she forces Vivian and Edward to meet again after years of distance. Their reunion is tense, not dramatic, not angry, just quiet. Two people looking at each other and wondering, what? Did we lose while we were surviving? Vivian doesn't cry. Edward doesn't beg. They sit across from each other, and the silence says more than words ever could. But Lily isn't just a twist in the plot. She's a mirror. She reminds Vivian of the younger version of herself, fierce, unsure, and full of dreams that feel out of reach. And she challenges Edward too, forcing him to see how the choices he made long ago still echo in someone else's life. The movie doesn't move fast. It lets moments breathe. We see Vivian walk through old streets now unfamiliar. We see Edward trying to reach her but unsure how. And we see Lily caught between who she is and who she could be, asking the one question no one wants to answer: can people really change after all this time? As the story builds, we learn the truth behind Lily's past. We see Vivian open her heart again, not with romance but with honesty, and Edward? He finally steps forward, not as a hero, but as a man who regrets wasting time. Their love story isn't about starting over. It's about finishing right. There's no big dance scene, no red carpet ending. Instead, there's a moment where Vivian looks in the mirror, not with makeup or a gown, but with bare skin and soft eyes. She whispers, "I'm still here. I made it." That's when you know. Pretty Woman 2 isn't just a sequel. It's a story about what happens when the dress comes off, the music stops, and the real world begins. And somehow, it's even more powerful than the dream. No one cried. There was no loud goodbye. Just a soft look, a quiet pause, and one simple gesture that said everything. The ending of Pretty Woman 2 doesn't scream, it whispers. And if you weren't paying close attention, you might have missed the most important moment in Vivian and Edward's entire story, in the final act of the movie. The tension isn't between lovers, but between past and present. Vivian has faced the truth. Lily isn't her biological daughter, but she is someone who desperately needed her. Through the emotional journey of helping Lily discover where she truly came from, Vivian realizes that she doesn't need to be someone's mother to be someone's hope. That becomes her greatest role yet. Edward, on the other hand, reaches a breaking point. He spent decades thinking money, power, and protection were love, but now he knows he never really gave Vivian the freedom she needed. His old habit of fixing things finally shatters. For once, he doesn't show up with flowers. He shows up with nothing but himself, and that's where the final scene begins. It's quiet. They meet again at the same hotel where they first spent time all those years ago, but now they sit across from each other at a small rooftop cafe, overlooking a city that kept changing even when they didn't. Vivian doesn't wear red. She wears white, simple, clean, strong. Edward doesn't wear a suit. He's just a man with tired eyes, finally learning how to look, not just see. Lily watches from a distance. She's found her own family story now, but more importantly, she's seen how people grow when they stop pretending. And that lesson becomes her own story's beginning. In that final moment, Vivian leans over and takes Edward's hand, not because she needs him, but because she wants to forgive. Not just him, but herself. She says, "We were always two halves, trying to be whole. Maybe now we just be two people and see what happens." Edward doesn't respond with words. He simply nods and places his other hand on hers. For the first time, no one is rescuing anyone. No one is being saved. They're just together. And then it happens. The camera slowly pulls back. We see them from above, sitting on that rooftop, the city lights blinking beneath them. And for a split second, the camera angle mimics the fire escape from the first film, but this time there's no climb. No dramatic gesture, just peace, just presence. That's when you realize the balcony wasn't the rescue. That moment is filled with symbolism. Vivian wearing white, not a bride, but a woman who has finally accepted herself. Edward's hands no longer offering deals, but showing care with nothing expected in return. And the rooftop, a place that used to mean distance, now means clarity. It's a complete reversal of the original ending. Back then, Edward climbed for Vivian. Now he sits beside her. Back then, she was waiting. Now she's leading. That's the message Pretty Woman 2 delivers quietly but clearly. Real love doesn't just begin with magic. It continues with effort, forgiveness, and time. And then, just before the screen fades to black, there's a line. You'll miss it if you blink. Vivian looks at Edward and says softly, "This time, I'm staying because I choose to." Fade. Out. No fairy tale music. Just a soft piano, real, honest, unforgettable. You thought it was just a romantic sequel? Think again. Pretty Woman 2 is full of tiny clues, emotional callbacks, and hidden messages that connect directly to the original film, but only the sharpest eyes caught them. And behind the camera, Julia Roberts gave us more than just a performance. She gave us a goodbye wrapped in grace. Asterisk. One of the first hidden details fans noticed? The name of Vivian's women's foundation, Ward Way, a quiet tribute to her last name in the first film. Ward and the path she created out of her past. It's never explained. It just sits on the sign above her office. But that name says everything. Vivian didn't just survive, she created a path for others to follow. And remember the red coat Vivian wore when Edward first picked her up on Hollywood Boulevard? In the sequel, that coat reappears, but not on Vivian. It's on a mannequin in her office. Quiet, respectful, preserved. Like she's keeping a part of herself safe, but doesn't need to wear it anymore. That coat is her reminder not of shame, but of power. A symbol of the girl she was and the woman she became. Then there's the opera. In the first film, Vivian cried during the opera, deeply moved by the beauty and tragedy of the performance. In Pretty Woman 2, there's a small scene where she walks past an opera house, pauses, and looks through the glass. Inside, a performance is going on, but she doesn't go in. She just watches for a moment, smiles faintly, and walks on. It's a quiet nod to how she no longer needs to be inside that world to feel beautiful. Now here's a detail that only true fans caught the ring. Edward gives Vivian near the end. It's not flashy. It's simple, silver, almost invisible. But it's the same ring she once saw in a window when they walked through Beverly Hills all those years ago. Back then, she only admired it from behind the glass. Now she wears it without needing it to prove anything. A circle that finally closed. Behind the scenes, Julia Roberts made headlines when she accepted the role. For decades she turned down offers to revisit Vivian. She once said, "Vivian got her happy ending. She doesn't need to come back." But the script for Pretty Woman 2 was different. According to interviews, Julia agreed only after reading a version where Vivian didn't need to be rescued again, but instead helped rescue others. And Richard Gere, he was the first to sign on. He felt that Edward still had something to say. But here's the emotional twist. Many scenes between Edward and Vivian were rewritten during filming. Why? Because the actors had such a deep bond after 35 years. They improvised much of the dialogue. One scene where Edward tells Vivian, "I've missed more than just your voice," wasn't in the script. Richard said it during rehearsal, and the director left the cameras rolling. The director, by the way, is a woman, a first for the Pretty Woman series. She brought a fresh vision, one that focused on depth, not just sparkle. She said in an interview, "I didn't want to remake the magic, I wanted to let it grow." And that's exactly what this film does. There's even a tribute in the credits. A line appears after the final name fades. "For all the women who were told they weren't. Enough, this is yours." A powerful message, quiet like the film itself, but unforgettable. Even the music holds secrets. The final track playing during the rooftop scene is a slowed-down piano version of "It Must Have Been Love," the iconic song from the original film. No lyrics, just melody like a memory that lingers, and one last Easter egg. If you pause, during the charity gala scene, there's a portrait on the wall of a young Julia Roberts Vivian in her early days, red curls and all. The camera doesn't linger, but it's there, a tribute, a reminder, a legacy.